Finding inner peace might sound like a distant dream when anxiety takes hold of your mind. Your heart races, your chest tightens, and your thoughts spiral into endless what-ifs that feel impossible to escape. In those moments, peace feels like a luxury reserved for someone else. But what if I told you that 2,000 years ago, a group of philosophers faced their own storms of fear and uncertainty? And from those storms, they forged a method of living that still works today. What if I told you that their wisdom could not only calm your anxious mind, but also give you a deeper strength to face whatever life throws at you? The Stoics were not removed from anxiety. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire while battling plagues, wars, and betrayal from those closest to him. Epictetus lived his life as a slave, with no freedom and no security. Seneca lived under the shadow of an emperor who could demand his death at any moment. Yet these men developed practices that allowed them to find clarity, calm, and even joy in the midst of chaos. And their insights can become your tools too. Anxiety thrives on uncertainty. It feeds on the idea that the future is dangerous and that you are powerless to handle it. The Stoics understood this, and that's why their first lesson is simple but revolutionary. Focus only on what is in your control. Think about how much of your anxiety comes from trying to control outcomes you cannot guarantee, whether people like you, whether your plans unfold perfectly, whether the world bends to your desires. When you try to control what lies outside your reach, you hand over your peace. The Stoics remind us that control lies only in our thoughts, our choices, and our actions. Everything else, the opinions of others, the twists of fate, the chaos of the world, belongs to the realm of what cannot be controlled. Epictetus said it plainly. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Imagine how much lighter your mind would feel if you stopped demanding certainty about things beyond your command. What would it feel like to release the need to control the uncontrollable? Anxiety often whispers, "What if it all goes wrong?" But Stoicism responds, "What if it doesn't matter whether it goes wrong, because I will choose my response no matter what?" This isn't apathy, it's power. By focusing your energy on what is within your control, you reclaim the strength anxiety tries to steal. Here's the second Stoic lesson. Reframe your perception. Anxiety is often a reaction not to reality itself, but to the story you tell yourself about reality. The Stoics knew that events themselves are neutral. It is our interpretation of them that makes them heavy or unbearable. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his journal that things have no power over us except what we give them in our minds. This isn't about denying reality. It's about refusing to add unnecessary suffering to it. For example, imagine you have an important meeting tomorrow and anxiety starts to whisper, "What if I fail? What if they laugh at me? What if I'm not enough?" The event hasn't happened yet, but your story has already created fear and pain. The Stoic approach is to pause and ask, what is the fact and what is my interpretation? The fact is that there is a meeting. The interpretation is that failure will destroy me. If you strip away the fearful narrative, the meeting itself becomes lighter. You can prepare, you can show up, you can act with integrity, but you no longer drown in the storm of imagined catastrophe. This practice is not about ignoring problems. It's about reclaiming your power over how you see them. Anxiety feeds on exaggeration, on distorted visions of the future. Stoicism reminds you that the mind has the power to reframe, to see things as they are, not as fear paints them. And when you see things clearly, anxiety begins to lose its grip. But perhaps the most profound insight of the Stoics comes in their third lesson, one that directly reshapes the way you experience fear. They ask you to practice what might feel like the opposite of avoiding anxiety. They ask you to face it. The Stoics had a practice called negative visualization. They would imagine the worst-case scenarios, not to terrify themselves, but to strip fear of its power. Seneca advised imagining loss, hardship, even death, not as a way to despair, but as a way to remember that you can endure. When you bring your fears into the light, they shrink. When you look them in the eye, you realize you are stronger than you thought. Anxiety thrives in avoidance. The more you try not to think about your fears, the louder they become. The Stoics teach the opposite. Confront them, name them, walk through them in your mind. You will see that even in the worst outcomes, you retain the power of your character, your choices, your resilience. This practice is not about expecting disaster. It's about preparing the soul so that no matter what comes, you remain unshaken. When we understand that so much of our worry is wasted energy spent on events we cannot control, we begin to reclaim a sense of peace. Marcus Aurelius himself wrote, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This is not a call to indifference. It does not mean we should stop caring about the world, our loved ones, or our responsibilities. Rather, it means that we should align our energy with what we can truly shape. Anxiety thrives in the gap between what we want to control and what we can actually influence. The moment we close that gap, our anxiety loses its grip. Think of it like standing on a shoreline watching a storm. The waves crash with force, the sky darkens, the winds howl. You cannot stop the storm, but you can choose not to fight it. You can choose to anchor yourself, to watch, or to endure. The Stoics remind us that in every storm, there is an opportunity to strengthen our inner stability. That inner stability comes when we stop trying to master the ocean and instead master the vessel of our mind. Now, let us explore the second Stoic principle, practicing voluntary discomfort. At first, this may sound counterintuitive. Why would someone seeking peace intentionally expose themselves to discomfort? But this is one of the most powerful tools the Stoics offered. They believed that by deliberately engaging with small hardships, we build resilience against the larger storms of life. Seneca advised practicing poverty, wearing rough clothing, eating meager food, and asking oneself, "Is this what I feared?" His point was not to glamorize suffering, but to strip away its power to terrify us. When anxiety strikes, it is often fueled by fear of the unknown or fear of future hardship. We dread losing what we have or facing pain we think we cannot bear. But when we taste small doses of discomfort willingly, we begin to see that it does not destroy us. The cold shower, the skipped meal, the walk in the rain, these small practices remind us that we can endure more than we think. Each voluntary discomfort is like a rehearsal for resilience. And each rehearsal makes the unexpected less frightening. Imagine living your life knowing that you have already tested yourself against hardship. How much freer would you feel? How much calmer would your nights be, knowing that the worst-case scenario might not be as unbearable as your anxious mind paints it? Anxiety thrives on exaggeration. Voluntary discomfort dismantles that illusion. It trains the mind to remain steady even when external conditions shift. The third Stoic principle for managing anxiety is the art of living in the present moment. This is not about ignoring the past or neglecting the future. It is about realizing that the only place we truly live is here, now, in this breath, in this thought. Epictetus wrote, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." Anxiety pulls us away from the present, dragging us into imagined futures that rarely come true. The Stoic response is to call ourselves back, to say, "What is happening right now? Can I endure this moment?" More often than not, the answer is yes. To live in the present moment is to dissolve the false stories our anxious mind creates. It is to ground ourselves in the simple reality of now. This moment is rarely unbearable. It is our projection of the next 1,000 moments that overwhelms us. When we learn to stop at one moment at a time, we rob anxiety of its fuel. The Stoics practiced this discipline with rigor. They understood that the present is both the smallest and the most powerful unit of life. To lose it to worry is to lose the very essence of living. So, imagine applying these 3 Stoic tips in your daily life. First, you separate what you can control from what you cannot, saving yourself from the exhaustion of trying to manage the uncontrollable. Second, you practice small acts of voluntary discomfort, building resilience and teaching your mind that hardship is survivable. And third, you anchor yourself in the present moment, refusing to be dragged away by the phantom fears of the future. Together, these practices form a shield. Not a shield that eliminates anxiety, but one that transforms your relationship with it. Anxiety will still knock on your door, but you will no longer invite it in to stay. The beauty of Stoic philosophy is that it is not abstract. It is practical, actionable, and deeply human. The Stoics were not removed from suffering. They knew war, exile, poverty, and loss. Yet they left us with a legacy of wisdom that continues to guide us through our own struggles. Their message is clear. Inner peace is not found in perfect circumstances, but in the strength of our response. And that strength is something every one of us can cultivate. So the question for you is this: which of these 3 Stoic tips will you begin to practice today? Will you start by separating what you can and cannot control? Will you test yourself with small acts of discomfort? Or will you commit to bringing your mind back to the present again and again until it becomes second nature? Share your thoughts in the comments. I would love to hear how you plan to apply Stoic wisdom in your own life. Remember, inner peace is not a distant destination. It is a practice, a discipline, a choice you make every day. Anxiety may rise, but so can you. You are stronger than your fears, more resilient than your doubts, and more capable than you realize. Let the Stoics be your companions on this journey, not as ancient voices locked in history, but as living guides reminding you of your own strength. If you found value in these insights, be sure to like this video and subscribe for more content on philosophy, psychology, and the art of living wisely. Together, we can continue to explore the wisdom that has stood the test of time and use it to build calmer, clearer, and stronger lives.